Welcome back to this week's walkthrough, where we go through and check off each one of the most trending topics this week in real estate. I am your host, Byron Lazine, with my co-host. I'm the co-host with, of course, Eric Simon, the broke agent, who is the second co-host of the show. Second for a reason. We have coming back two guests that have been highly sought after to make returns on the show. Taya DeCarlo, Compass agent in, of course, sunny California. By the way, fun fact about Taya, she lives in America's most American neighborhood of all time. Eric and I can attest to that.
Golden retrievers running around, fathers playing catches with their sons,
waving hellos, like
American flags everywhere. It was crazy.
An
felt like it was an alternate universe in LA.
An abundance of hellos. It is insane.
Who knew LA could be so friendly?
Exactly. You got those doors that like open halfway. What are those called?
It's called a Dutch. People? It's a Dutch door.
Dutch oven door. There you
Dutch
go.
Door.
No oven. No oven.
No oven. And then we've got Katie Day, the Move Me to Texas brand, of course, at Real. This show is getting a little inundated by Real. You got to go check out last week's walkthrough. Katie, welcome back to the walkthrough.
Thank you.
Katie, before we get into our three topics, your take on last week's discussion on the whole EXP fudging the numbers. We had Jeremy on there talking some real talk and Dustin with some EXP stuff. It's all setting up for this beautiful EXP real debate, which I think you'll be a part of on the BAM network. Your thoughts on last week's walkthrough, which if you haven't seen, you got to go check it out.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I should probably go check it out.
Oh, you watched every detail.
I watched it. Of course I did. Gotta support my BAM guys and obviously Jeremy Knight. No, I think that I have to echo Jeremy's thoughts, right? It's, disappointing or frustrating. I don't know what the word I would use would be, but that, we always talk about realtors fudging their numbers and saying they're the top 1% of, this specific street or this specific neighborhood or whatever it may be. But when brokerages use different numbers to show different things, you wonder kind of where the truth lies. So, it's time will tell, what happens there, I guess.
Who had a better performance, Jeremy Knight or Dustin Brahm on last week's show?
Just trying to create controversy.
I know. I feel like you're setting me up for this drama here.
Well, we know you're real biased, so I guess we'll just skip that one and get right into walkthrough topic number one: the canceling of deals impact on prices. We can show the Redfin chart, which came out this week, and everybody picked this up, by the way. I was Bloomberg picked it up, Wall Street Journal picked it up, CNBC, obviously Inman. There's an Inman article we can link below. This shows you that since March and April of 2020, June of 2022 had the most cancellations. There was like 60,000 homes that fell out of contract, or about 14.9% of all homes that went under contract fell out of contract in June. June of last year, by the way, was 11.2%. So it's not like it's not like double the amount of deals falling out of contract. More people are doing inspections. So I'd love everyone's takes on why we're seeing an increase of deals falling out of contract right now, the highest again since March and April of 2020. Why that may be, but more importantly, will this have an impact on prices? Because there are a lot of buyers that are waiting on the sidelines for these prices to take a nosedive. Are these types of headlines going to give them the signal that, okay, prices are coming down, and is that valid? Tay, let's start with you.
Yeah, there's several factors at play here. I think number one is we've had a spike in interest rates. And I think that, quite frankly, there's a lot of buyers that all of a sudden found themselves at one point in the beginning of the transaction approved for a certain amount. And by the time interest rates hiked up, depending on what type of loan program they had, they could no longer afford the home. And it's a good thing they had their contingencies, because then they can back out and keep their deposit. Number two, to echo your point about inspections, now we have a little bit of a power play for buyers. Buyers are able to have a little bit more negotiating power when they're doing their inspection, their investigation. If they find something that's wrong with the property. Like, so for example, one of my clients found mold, right? And a number of drainage issues. I was able to negotiate $100,000 off the contract price. And that was a bidding war situation. But the agent on the other end understood that if this deal fell out, if that seller didn't try and negotiate with us, that they were going to have to start from square one and likely get less than they had in the beginning.
Taya, would this have been a deal a year ago that the mold would not have been found through an inspection because potentially inspections would have been waived?
Well, just because a buyer waives their investigation doesn't mean they don't perform an investigation, right?
Ha,
So that means
didn't know
that
that one, did you, Byron?
that means that
It's
they
a good point. I did know it, but it's a good point.
no,
Go
but
ahead, Taya.
it's a
I
really
did know it.
it's a really smart thing to mention because a lot of people who are listening are going to be like, well, yeah, a year ago, you would do your inspections, you would find the mold, and you'd be like, well, guess I'm buying a house with mold. We're going to figure that out down the line and maybe get a second loan to pay for the cash that it's going to take to rehab the house.
That's
So
right.
there are people falling out of escrow because A, the seller maybe is not willing to negotiate, B, they can no longer afford it, or C, they're buying into the fear that the mainstream media is really shoving down their throats. Because I think we'll get into this. Yes, there's an adjustment, but we're not headed for a crash. At least that's what the chief economists are saying, that we're headed for a correction.
So you think there will be some impact on pricing, which is why you brought the example up of $100,000 adjustment, which does impact original negotiation to where they ended up. Katie, your thoughts on the uptick in deals being canceled, and will that impact pricing?
Yeah, I mean, as far as deals getting canceled, I think, Taya is spot on with the interest rates, for a lot of buyers that perhaps got their pre-approval more than 30 days ago, 45, maybe 6 months ago, something like that. We're having them go back to the lender to get pre-approved to ensure that they're still comfortable and can afford the payment that they now have with today's interest rates. So, as Taya said, like if you're already under contract, and it's a 60-day escrow period, that interest rate, if it wasn't locked, may be something you can no longer afford. As far as the inspections and now obviously having more due diligence periods and options periods and inspection periods, I think, there's also rising inventory in a lot of markets, right? So we've seen with a lot of buyers we're working with, some of them are in multiple offer situations still, but some of them are like, okay, hey, let's put in offers on these two houses and see what happens, right? We're still in a lot, a lot of multiple offers and a lot of competitive situations. So, they're going under contract on one, but then the other one gets accepted and canceling on the first one and paying the appropriate fees to do so. So I think buyers have that moment now that they didn't have last year in saying, hey, there's other options out there. Hey, we just saw this new construction hit the market with incentives, so I'm going to go buy that instead. So I think buyers are starting to see a little bit more options.
To me, I think this is going to impact the rate of appreciation more than it may. When you hear impact on pricing, it doesn't mean prices are going to go down year over year. If we look at, and every market's going to be different, and we can throw up the KCM slides if you'd like, Haley. If we look at, what's going to happen year over year, 2022, from the start of the year to the end of the year, we're still going to see prices go up, right? And in fact, nobody's even projecting home price appreciation to have a negative year over the 4 years following. Doesn't mean that those projections are going to be right, but it does appear that home values on the whole, not in every market or in every price point, but on the whole, as a collective, are going to continue to go up. But that rate of appreciation, right? We're talked about 20% last year. Now we're down to 9.3%. So it's not moving up as fast, but it's still heading in that direction. And that's where I think the impact personally will be. It'll be on the rate of appreciation. And we got to always remember the best KCM slide that has, agents have been able to use over the last few years is that a recession does not equal a housing crisis, right? It doesn't mean that every time we get into these situations like we are faced with right now, and this is a slide that when you're talking to somebody who's on the fence about buying and they're still waiting and paying somebody else's mortgage, this is the information they need, that, hey, it's a gamble to think that what happened in 2008 is going to happen now. And here are the reasons why today doesn't look like 2008. 4 out of the last 6 recessions, we actually saw values go up. And I believe we're going to have a by definition recession right now. GDP is going to slip, and we'll have 2 quarters of, GDP decline. So we'll be in a recession again. But I could see, going back to the last slide, I could see that home values will continue to appreciate in your markets. Just quickly, we'll move on to the next one. And in the comments, please, I'd love to know how you feel about your market. Do you feel like prices are already going down? Not meaning the rate of appreciation, but are they actually going down from where they were? And Taya and Katie, quickly, in your markets, do you think prices are actually going to go down, or just the rate of appreciation?
I just wanted to add one thing, and sorry if this is adding an extra bit to this, but I think it's important. I think that in LA, we are seeing a correction, right? That you can't deny the numbers, that we're having numbers that are adjusting, that are going to be below list, maybe some price reductions, but we're standing on the shoulders of values of 2020 and 2021, where we've had unprecedented growth. One of the reasons, or excuse me, 2 of the reasons that I think we're not going to see a crash and we're going to see more of a correction is that vacancy rates are at a historical low, meaning that the last time we had the financial crisis over a decade ago, the vacancy rates were extremely high right before the financial crisis. So there's that data that's out there. Secondly, we have much better underwriting. We have people who are getting loans that are actually qualified. They have great credit scores. They have cash in the bank, and we're not seeing a high rate of people defaulting on their loans. But one last thing I wanted to mention, that I know what's happening in California, but there are economists out there that are saying that some micro markets across the country are going to be more vulnerable to a major correction than others. And just some of those are areas like Phoenix, Tucson, the Carolinas, and Boise. Those are just like what I've been reading online prior to doing, this Zoom call with you guys. And that is information coming from Mark Zandi, who's the chief economist at Moody Analytics.
Damn.
Katie, Taya did not, the Californian did not take a shot at Texas. So she was very nice to you there. What do you
She knows where her clients are moving to. They're selling their California home and moving to me, so that's why, Taya's nice to me,
She did not take the shot, but are you seeing prices go down in Texas? Do you think it's just the rate of appreciation? Where do you see the data coming in your state?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things to look at is like prices when we're talking about like list price and sales price, right? And then when we're talking about actual home values and appreciation, I think those are 2 completely different things. Obviously, they have impact on each other. But one of the things we're seeing a lot of our price decreases right now, right? Over the last 7 days here in Houston, we've had around 3,000 price decreases. When we were looking back in like January, it was like 800 to 1,000, right? And when we crossed over 1,000 price decreases in a 7-day period, we're like, oh shit, like prices are what's happening, right? So, that particular aspect of things, I think, has to do with sellers that are over eager in pricing. They sell their neighbor's home sold for $500K, so they want to list for $550, but they should have listed for $495 or $5 and change, right? So those type of price decreases, I think, aren't saying like, oh, hey, the market's crashing. It's, oh, hey, our expectations of what the market's going to do aren't really accurate. Right. And it's also an agent thing, right? So like if the agents don't know the data and know, hey, this is where things are and we have a little bit more inventory, so we need to price like we were back in, 2018 and 2019, if you were actually licensed then, that's what we need to be doing right now. As far as actual sales prices in Houston over the month of June, we're still 13%, up year over year. So I think that we will still see appreciation, but not at that 15 to 17 to 20%. That we saw in 2020 and 2021, right? It'll look a lot like your slide.
I agree. I believe sale prices are going to continue to slowly appreciate. And these reductions that are happening are people that were insane on their prices, a lot of them. And you have a lot of crap inventory. Eric, you're looking at homes in San Diego. How many crap holes have you seen and you just can't believe the price?
I mean, I haven't looked at any homes.
Okay, well, I
haven't done anything. Byron, real quick, just ask me what I think of all the cancellations, so I could get like a clip in here or something.
All right, Eric, what's your thoughts on the cancellations?
Hey, cancel culture comes for everyone, Byron. There we go. So we could add that clip at the end of something.
Yeah,
that, you guys all said.
add that into something intelligent that
Oh.
Taya or
Exactly.
Katie
Put that at
said.
the
But
tail
that's
end
a-
of it. That'll wrap up the clip perfectly. There we
That's
go.
a great
That's
segue into canceling real estate shows.
That's correct. So
Exactly,
we'll
Taya.
check that off.
Exactly. Brilliant.
And
Bada bing.
Brilliant
Taya has
news
like you've
nailed
done this
it.
before.
The $1 million listing show that stole the hearts of every real estate fan out there. New York has put a pause on their show. This comes off of the heels of Ryan Serhant and Frederick saying they no longer want to be a part of the show, and they're pausing the show. But let's go around. Katie, we'll start with you. The impact of $1 million listing on the real estate industry itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that $1 Million Listing and a lot of the other shows on Bravo and other channels have brought or shed a light, on real estate. And while it may not be a fully accurate representation of our industry and the things we go through on a regular basis, right? It may be a little more dramatic than your day-to-day negotiations, and the transactions may run a little bit faster. But I think that it's definitely brought a lot of, light into the real estate industry and kind of shown that spotlight of, in getting people more interested in either getting into real estate or investing or somehow, getting themselves involved in it. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's had, a generally positive impact on the real estate industry.
So more positive than negative. Taya, what do you think?
I mean, should I just be the contrarian? Because
Do it.
although I love the people on the show, like I really do, like know them in, several of them in person, like in real life. They're great people. I think that these shows, I think, exploit a lot of personalities, and obviously they're doing it for ratings. They're trying to create drama, and I find myself, even though it exposes the real estate business to more of like the mainstream public to be like, look, this is what we do. There's also a lot of real estate shows that create drama that make us look like we don't do anything. And I'm like, this is crazy. So when my friends are calling me going, so is your life like selling Sunset? I'm like, no. And those bitches aren't even realtors. Like some of them are title reps. You're like, what the fuck? Like, sorry. I mean, I'm sure several of them have their real estate license. It's not hard to attain one of those, but many of them were not working and grinding in real estate. They were pretty faces who could sell the drama and get handed a few deals. Sorry, I said what I said.
Haley, our intern here, how many you watch every show of Selling Sunset? She loves it for the drama, and I know Eric watches every episode as well. Eric, what's your thoughts on $1 Million Listing? The impact.
Finally, you're
on
bringing
real
me in
estate?
here. It's been 30 minutes, and I've just been sitting here swiveling in my chair. I think that the impact of $1 Million Listing specifically has been really positive on the industry. When I first got my license in 2013, 2014, I thought being a real estate agent was the lamest thing on earth. I thought it was a career that people basically failed at other careers and then they got their license. And that's exactly what I was, basically. I worked at the Laugh Factory. I was, in their marketing department there. I was the receptionist at a brokerage called Hilton and Highland. And the Altman brothers worked at that brokerage. And people used to come into the reception desk and just ask about them. People wanted to list their house. It created this awesome buzz around real estate where real estate became so much more mainstream and cool. My roommate at the time used to actually record episodes of $1 Million Listing. And it used to piss me off a little bit too, because of what Taya said. Like, he would kind of think that my life would be something similar to this, but really I'm just sitting at home, making cold calls. I wasn't even making cold calls. I was literally just sitting at home, just looking at properties. Like, I mean, I wasn't even doing that. I was posting memes,
lie to the public, man.
Look, I just I interrupted myself 3 times there. So I think that overall it was a very positive impact. I think the shows like Selling Sunset, Selling Tampa, there's a new show, Buying Beverly Hills. Maybe that's going to be good also. But all it does is it creates consistent conversation around. And from a content perspective, I love it because I get to make fun of these shows. I get to have these people on our podcast. It creates more content. So for the content ecosystem, it's a huge positive. And then also, I think a lot of these people have been great role models for other real estate agents. Ryan Serhant has built an unbelievable brand, started his own brokerage. He started, the Sell It Like Serhant courses. He's just like a model realtor for other agents and like how to brand yourself. So I think a lot of these people have done an incredible job with their brands outside of reality TV, which people don't do on The Bachelor. Like, you get a bachelorette contestant or a bachelor contestant. They have like 6 months of fame. They sell a few like Fit Tea products and then they're done. All these $1 Million Listing people, have created something. The Altmans have a massive speaking business. James and David from the agency, they have the Blueprint, which is a new email newsletter. Like all of them seem to have capitalized on this fame, made their real estate careers better, and then made their brands way bigger.
So I want to backpedal on something I said earlier, just so it doesn't get edited to be like on the heels of all this.
It's still May. It's still May.
Just so we don't bam edit it.
Don't bam edit this shit. What I'm trying to say is I think on the heels of what Eric just said, $1 Million Listing did a great job with real realtors who are living real lives, who are going out there and creating a brand and a business for themselves. And that show helped the careers of everyone on that show. They've taken it and run with it. And I'm incredibly inspired by all of them. I was criticizing shows like Selling Sunset, who are like the antithesis, in my opinion, of $1 Million Listing. I think $1 Million Listing is an example of a reality real estate show that's done it right. And it's sad to see that show go. But shows like Selling Sunset are like the pendulum swinging in the different direction of just purely selling drama. And it's like a housewife show.
Well, and no one's watching Selling Sunset to like, study for their real estate exam. They're watching it for the drama. So
yeah,
true.
I mean, that's what Haley says. She's watched every episode specifically for the drama.
But people still refer to it like the general public. We live in this bubble of realtors. The general public is like, is that real life? And you're like, it's scripted, guys. It's scripted.
I think there's 3 categories here. To everyone's point, it's been a huge windfall for everybody on the show. They're actual entrepreneurs, they're business men and women, and they've been able to leverage this into a bigger business for themselves and years of brand equity. Then there's been the second bucket, the second category, which is agents that are thinking about getting into the business. This is where it's been a little bit of a toss up because they're confused on you can only split a dollar bill 100 ways, right? So when you see these commissions that are labeled at 100%, yeah, you as the little agent aren't getting all of that. I mean, you got to hire a TC, you got to have a buyer agent, right? You're going to have a brokerage, you're going to have a team split, you're going to have expenses to running a business, and opening a door doesn't entitle you to 100% commission. So it's been a little confusing for the agents coming in. They think martinis and yelling at people is how you get through your day, which sounds very fun, but that's not the reality, right? There's a lot of
literally
hard work.
Your life, Byron. You drink martinis and you scream at people.
There's a lot of hard work that goes into all of that. And so it's been good to attract a young, because the average age of the agent is 58. So it's been good to attract a young vibe and energy into the business. But then, having checked the ego at the door, has been something some new agents have struggled with. And then the third bucket is consumers. We've dealt with, since these shows came out a decade ago, we've seen the industry go through commission compression from a lot of different angles. And when consumers are watching this and Bravo or Netflix or whoever's not breaking down all of the expenses an agent has in their business, consumers are like, I don't want to pay 5% so that you can walk away with $60K in your pocket. But yet they want to be in the Wall Street Journal for advertising, or they want to be in a magazine, or they want the best Facebook ad of all time or the best video. So they've done a very poor job for the consumers that are watching it and are going to hire a listing agent that year or go hire a buyer agent, of walking them through where all this money is going throughout the transaction. I would say overall, all publicity is good publicity. So a win for the industry. If I was going to balance it out, it's probably like 65-35, good to bad, maybe 60-40. But you can say that bad publicity is good publicity. And I think it's been a win.
Let me say one more thing real quick.
Go ahead, Eric.
So it also ushered in the era of the celebrity agent and the celebrity influencer in real estate, which I think is really cool. I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to do here with Broke Agent Media is pick up all these creators who are also influencers and, have their own lifestyles, brands and stuff like that. Like, these people have done such a good job with their branding. They have books. They could sell so much stuff outside of real estate that has completely flipped the way we think about, okay, I'm a real estate agent, but I could use this following to leverage other things. I'm a speaker now. I have a course now. I could do this. So I think it's really just kind of like revolutionized the way agents can think about building their brand.
And
Yeah,
flipping
it's
that,
opened
Eric,
it up.
there are people like Tyler Whitman who had a huge online presence, which got him the part on $1 Million
Yes.
Listing. So I think that you're absolutely right. It's this new era of normal people who have a huge organic following online that are getting noticed by bigger networks to expand on that. So he's a perfect example of that. And actually Tracy Tudor as well, because she actually had a huge career before being on $1 Million Listing. She, was at Partners Trust when I was there. I remember how hard she worked and all the business that she procured and really kicked ass. And then getting to the point she's at now, I think that's something to really be proud of.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, Eric, you said, Byron, we've got to talk about the most important Instagram metric. We've given away a ton of Instagram hacks, even on this show and, all over BAM. You can check out a whole bunch of different articles that are going to add value to your marketing endeavors. But Eric, what right now are you calling the most important Instagram metric that all of us need to be paying attention to?
view retention, how long people watch your videos, is now the number one thing that the Instagram algorithm is looking at. So they rank all engagements, right? Like a like is less than a comment, which is less than a save, which is less than a share. Now, I mean, I got this from a YouTube video actually, so I don't know, how accurate the source is, but it was from an Instagram expert. And they said that viewer retention, you got to get people to watch your videos for 100% retention. You have to watch them all the way through, and that'll push your video more in the algorithm more than anything else, more than shares, comments, likes, and saves. So he also said to focus on short form video, which we already know, but Instagram is really just becoming a short form video platform, keeping it 30 seconds, 15 seconds, anything under to get people to watch that entire thing. IGTV, obviously dead. Tay's 2 cents actually doing great for long form video.
I had 27,000 views on one of my videos.
27,000 views. And how long was that?
It was like a 5-minute long video. It was
yeah, but you
unbelievable.
probably did a great job at keeping people's attention throughout the entire.
People's attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask everybody here is, what tactics do you use to keep people's attention in the video? Are you using captions? Are you using cuts? Are you using hooks? What are you doing to keep people watching?
I can jump in and start. I mean,
Yeah,
the best tactic that has worked for me in my style is having such an aggressive 3-second hook that people are stunned that I just said it, where they don't even have time to scroll. That they are like a boxer who doesn't expect that body shot, and they get, they stumble backwards a little bit.
Their thumb stops working.
Where they're literally like, wait a minute. He just said that, and so they're not even thinking about what I'm saying next. They're stuck on the hook, and then what happens is they rewatch the whole video a second time to say, did he really say that? And then you get the double retention because you get the second view. And so some of my more controversial ones are obviously going to get the most engagement, but they're getting engagement because people are watching it even a second time to say, wait, is that what just happened?
Mm-hmm. I'm the same way. I mean, I'm all about that verbal or visual hook, that verbal or visual clickbait, where I have a strong opinion. And I'm not just saying it for shock factor. I'm saying because I genuinely believe it, right? Like I'll say something that I'll stand behind because I want the engagement. I want people to share it. I want them to have a conversation in the comments. So I'll come out the gate and say, come at me. And there are people who will.
There always will be people.
But it's like, but that's what makes it fun. So I would encourage anyone out there, instead of trying to make short form videos that are like someone else's, come up with something original. Have an opinion. If you see a news article or you're watching this YouTube video and you hear I mentioned like some chief economist, go in and read that article and have your own opinion about it and have your own hook and create like a 30-second video where you recap the stats that we just talked about.
Taya, I like a lot of your short form stuff because it's like the original content as well, right? So some of the ones you've done with like, the toilet paper and like different like skit type videos, I feel like they keep you, if it's more than 15 and you have to like click on it to watch more, like I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on, or you're talking direct to camera and like there's cuts and things like that happening. So it keeps the attention because it's like, it's not like you're just sitting there talking direct to camera like Byron and I, so.
But Katie, you just did a video too where you like jump in the frame right? Where you were showing a house or something like that. And
Yeah.
that helps too. Instead of a verbal hook, it was a visual hook.
Mhm.
So that really helps
Aggressive,
too.
yeah,
So for the people at
visual
home,
hook.
do something crazy at the beginning of your video, like slam your head against a wall or like smash a glass or something like that. Get people hooked in.
Yeah, those are great tips. Definitely write those two down. I also like, as Byron was saying, like when people watch it once or watch it again to really understand what you just said, or to make sure, did he really just say that or whatever. I like the loops. And I know Byron's done that on some of his TikToks and reels where, the first statement and the last statement kind of tie together. So it loops into, one story, and you're like, well, wait, am I watching this again, or what just happened? And you tend to actually watch it again to see when it loops. So I like that, kind of tactic or cheat code there.
Yes,
Yeah.
the loops are huge for the algorithm because that gets the view retention. Like you said, the repetitiveness. That's something that YouTuber mentioned actually, is how can you time it where the video kind of just replays itself, whether you do it with the actual audio or the actual action in the video. And then another thing he said was using real templates. Do you use these at all? Where you could
Mhm.
actually, how you could save audio? You can
Yeah.
now save a template that actually breaks down the seconds that you could put your own visuals, pictures, videos in there
Oh,
that are
wow.
timed to the actual music. So this is a new thing where you could like use templates. So if you're scrolling through the Reels feed, you'll see some where you could actually use that template and then replicate someone else's video with that same timing. So using that's going to be really effective too. But it's really all Reels, all short form video, and keeping the viewer retained.
Yeah, the
Damn it.
art of the
It's not a
short
word.
term or the short videos is going to be with us for the long term. That's what I meant by that. All right. If you're not using these KCM slides that we use in the first segment, go down to the link below, trykcm.com/BAM. You've got to have this data. It's made for you. It's branded to you to help educate your clients, whether they're buying, selling, or investing. So go trykcm.com/BAM. Katie, Taya, you guys are both going to be joining us in Dallas, right?
Yes, at least
Right.
for a couple nights, because you guys bamboozled me.
Good.
I will be there.
And so we're all going to be in Dallas at the Tom Ferry Summit. We've got a link for that as well with the ticket link below. Eric, before we jump off, I just want to say congrats to you and Matt for joining myself in the Real Word podcast with the Overask podcast on the Inman Innovator
Thank you.
finalist list. This is my second time being on the list. I believe it's your first.
It is, yes. And
Woohoo!
this goes against my conspiracy theory that Inman has been against me for 7 years.
They're
Just
with you
because
here.
Well, we'll see who
I think
wins,
they're with me. We'll see who wins exactly. But
well-
I had a little conspiracy theory. I was an ambassador one year, wasn't invited back the next year, so I figured something happened there. But it looks like I was wrong. It's been in my head for 7 years, and I will be back on stage accepting that award.
Does that mean we're going to Vegas?
We're going to Vegas.
Oh, we're going to Vegas.
Yeah.
We're going to Vegas. So yeah, we'll be that. So if you're in the comments, are you going to Inman Connect Las Vegas in the beginning of August? We'll be there. Are you going to Dallas at the end of August for the Tom Ferry Summit? Tickets are below if you want to go to that. We'll be there. In the comments, are you going to any of these things? And Eric, I'm pretty convinced that you and Matt are going to win the Inman Innovator for the podcast section. I've never seen Inman fanboy over someone like they have been with Matt Leonetti in my life.
In a slobbering fashion. I've never seen anything quite like it. But you know what? He's a great speaker, and he's great for the main stage there. So that's a great relationship.
And by the way, Brad McCullum, BAM contributor, also on the finalist list. Ryan Serhan, your chance is still out there to potentially be a BAM contributor. Also made the list.
I'm sure he's very interested.
I think he is.
He's just been waiting for the ask, probably.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So anyways, congrats there. And Katie and Taya, thank you guys so much. Love doing the show with you guys.
Thank you
Maybe
for
the
having us.
walkthrough will be on the list next year, and then we can all celebrate in Vegas together. All right. Love to hear from you guys. Are you going to any of these events? We'll see you on next week's walkthrough.
Bye.